I think in like any technology, there is a technology S curve. There are early adopters, then there are people that come in a bit later, and they're finally the laggards, right? So there are typically three phases. And between the initial early adopters and the general mass that adopts it, there is an inflection point. So maybe the initial adopters, let's say businesses that want to adopt very quickly are about 10%. And then there is a vertical growth, maybe that's 40, 50%. Then there is the remaining 30% or so are called laggards because they're slow to adopt the technologies. They are the last ones to adopt when everybody else has adopted it and they have nowhere else to go. That's where we are as humans. So it's kind of normal for us to be, some of us are just propeller heads. We want to look at the latest new technology and try it. So many of them are actually waiting for somebody to prove to them, because still now, in all fairness, the masses of the world have seen something like the Microsoft Copilot, ChatGPT, and they're using it maybe to send emails faster, to respond to emails, maybe polish up a draft, correct a spreadsheet. Are they useful? Yes. Are they game changing for their business? Not yet. Some of them are they maybe even game changing and extremely useful, such as taking inbound calls, reducing the cost of calls, putting out automated scheduled posts regularly, having human in the loop to verify the content before it's posted. Yes, yes, yes. And if you put in the right documents, can it file your taxes? So a lot of these little things are being done. So a lot of the fear comes from something like, oh, Samsung used it and all its information was leaked. Because once you realize that algorithms from AI is one part, it's like a tripod. The second part is data to train the AI on. And then the third part is a compute on which it can run. These are the three fundamental elements. And companies realize that. Many of them are smart enough to realize, whoa, my moat, my extremely high value treasure that I have is my data. Nobody else has access to it. There is no way I'm going to part with it. And I'm going to wait till AI is ready. In many cases, that'll probably work out. Even a venerable company like Apple has not even upgraded its Siri. There's no way you can just talk to the phone and have its apps do things, etc. They're deliberately being slow to adopt because AI hallucinates. It makes mistakes. So many of these companies are afraid they cannot afford, and they're doing important things. Maybe they're filing taxes, they cannot afford a mistake. Maybe they're sending a document. Recently, I talked to a founder that was sending a document to an investor, and AI hallucinated and put some errors in there. But luckily for this person, a co-founder looked at it and corrected it before it went out to the investors. But that person was saying, I've come to rely on AI so much that sometimes I don't check what it does. And that's a mistake on my part. Those are early adopters, but many of the ones that are waiting are saying, I cannot afford, I don't have time, and I don't want to learn. Many people think there's a big, steep learning curve, which is essentially true today. And somebody else said, I have to repeatedly give it the context, and I'm exhausted. I don't have time to do that. I would rather do it myself. And I have to give it different context if I'm using it at work. I have to give it a completely different context if I'm using it personally. And they're afraid of overlapping. I don't want my personal information, such as my health or any other personal work that I've done, to be leaked into my company, and so on and so forth. So you can now start seeing people are worried about security, people are worried about confidentiality, privacy, hallucinations. So there are enough challenges. So now, not to get into regulations and compliance in many areas such as healthcare and financial services. Now, AI is currently able to do those narrow slices of activity pretty well, right? Would I use AI to write a draft of an investment proposal for fundraising for a startup? Absolutely. Would I completely rely on it and just send it without checking? Absolutely not. So is it helpful? Does it cut down time? Absolutely. If you're building one-off apps, like I was giving you examples of DocuSign, you send a document and people can sign it and it is saved in a cloud or something like that. Can you build an agent to do that? Yeah, absolutely. Can you build a clone of Calendly fairly quickly? I don't see why not. Are people doing that? Yes. But as much as there are these propeller heads of these early adopters that are getting into things, and there are also what so-called AI native startups, just like we had internet native. That means the company is fully built on internet. Internet native banks, we saw them, for example, completely online. There's no physical location. Similar to that became mobile native. That means they only run on mobile. Most of the apps on the App Store, for example, are mobile native. And now we have AI native companies. So are there scads of startups that are doing AI native? They're completely on AI and nowhere else? Yeah. So it's not that they're not there. And are they able to do it successfully? Yeah, many of them are successful, but they have handled many of these problems very smartly. So many of the adopters and those that have adopted, that's another challenge, is many of them either laid off people because they have adopted AI and they overestimated what AI can do. So if they laid off thousands of people, they had to hold their hat in their hands and go back and hire half of them back because AI could not do what those people were doing. So when the people that are not the early adopters are looking at these people and saying, oh, they're undoing, rewinding. It's such a pain. I don't think it's a good idea. Now, is it possible that in certain areas, such as data processing, such as marketing, such as inbound, outbound sales, call centers, are there certain areas like that getting disrupted and pretty rapidly? Oh, no question about it. And in those areas, are people being replaced or cut down so that one person can do the work of 5 or 10 people? Absolutely. So it is happening, but it is the usual compound effect curve or the early S curve where there's a smaller number of SMBs, small and medium sized businesses that are beginning to adopt it. But you can see that that pace is accelerating because of multiple reasons. People are getting more comfortable with AI. AI is becoming stronger and better and filling some of the gaps. So overall, people are getting comfort in success stories that come out and saying, okay, maybe I can replace this, maybe I can replace that. And then they're also realizing if they were using something like search engine optimization, people are not searching on Google as much. They go to ChatGPT or Claude and they're asking the same questions over, they're 90% of the time they would have spent on Google is now redirected. So now they're now thinking, oh my God, how do I show up in AI engines? So AEO instead of SEO, search engine optimization. So those kinds of things are an indication that people are being, in a nice way, in the beginning, being nudged to get into AI. Pretty soon, they'll be forced to get into AI. I hope that summarizes what's happening. It's not that people don't want to get in, but they're waiting for some problems to be solved. Some people don't have the patience to get in and solve it themselves.